Far to the north, where the wind howls like ancient ghosts and the sky hangs heavy over green, wet hills, a line of stone cuts across the earth. It follows the ridges like a scar, rising and falling with the land, defying time itself. This is no mere ruin. It is a whisper, a voice from the past, a wall, a choice, a man who dared to say, "This far and no further." In the year 117 CE, the Roman Empire stretched like an eagle in flight, from the sands of Arabia to the highlands of Scotland. It had never been larger, never seemed more invincible. But beneath that gleaming surface, cracks had begun to form. The roads grew long and brittle, rebellion flickered on the edges, and the treasury strained beneath the weight of glory. Rome was tired, but pride blinded her eyes. From the distant town of Italica in Hispania, far from Rome's marble forums, rose a man with a scholar's heart and a soldier's bearing. Publius alias Hadrianus, Hadrian. He loved books more than bloodshed, architecture more than applause. Yet fate placed the purple cloak of empire upon his shoulders, not through triumph, but through uncertainty and whispered succession, sealed only by the Empress Plotina's final request. Hadrian's first act as emperor was not conquest, but retreat. He withdrew from Mesopotamia and Armenia, lands his predecessor Trajan had just taken with great fanfare. To Rome's senators, it felt like sacrilege, but Hadrian saw clearly victory had become a burden. Peace, if it could be earned, would be the greater legacy. Rome had been a hungry beast, always devouring, but Hadrian dreamed of an empire that breathed more slowly, one that rested, healed, endured. He envisioned borders not as battlegrounds, but as lines of care and preservation. Not all growth required the sword. In 122 CE, Hadrian stood where the Roman world ended, in the damp, mist-laced hills of Britannia. The tribes beyond were fierce and free, so he drew a line, not just in stone, but in philosophy. A wall would rise here, 73 miles long, studded with mile castles and watchtowers. Built by legions, it would be Rome's skin, strong, flexible, alive. Forts like Vindolanda and Housesteads bustled with soldiers who cooked, drilled, and wrote letters home. Merchants bartered wool and wine. Children played in mud-brick courtyards. Rome, even here, pulsed with life. This war was not a cage, but a filter, controlling trade, movement, and time. It was discipline carved into earth. Hadrian's gaze stretched far. In Germania, he built the limes, a border of timber and stone stretching over 300 miles. In the Sahara, desert forts dotted Roman Africa like stars across sand. He wove the frontiers together like threads in a grand tapestry, strong but gentle. Unlike rulers before him, Hadrian didn't reign from ivory halls. He walked the dusty roads of his empire, through vineyards in Gaul, temples in Athens, and dusty courtyards in Judea. He listened, inspected, embraced. His empire saw its ruler not as a god above, but a man among them. They called him Philhellene, lover of Greece. He admired its statues, its reason, its restraint. He rebuilt shrines in Athens, revived Olympic Games, and built the grand temple of Olympian Zeus. His soul was not purely Roman. It straddled marble columns and olive groves, philosophy and discipline. In the heart of Rome, Hadrian rebuilt the Pantheon. Its oculus opened to the heavens, flooding the temple with divine light, a space where all gods could dwell, Greek, Roman, and beyond. Here was unity made architecture, a circle without edges, empire as harmony. In Tivoli, he built not a palace, but a memory in stone. Villa Adriana stretched across hills like a painted scroll, each corner a place he had loved: Egyptian pools, Greek theaters, Babylonian pavilions. It was a home, a journal, a dream. Rome was more than roads and legions. It was a promise of order. Hadrian saw that law was the true mortar of civilization. He commissioned jurist Salvius Julianus to compile the Edictum Perpetuum, a lasting law for all citizens. One rule, one justice, one Rome. He reformed slavery, not abolishing it, but softening its harshest edges. Masters could no longer kill at will. Punishments had limits. Dignity was whispered into dark corners. Justice was no longer at the emperor's whim, but in the scrolls he left behind. Then came Antinous, a beautiful youth from Bithynia. He followed Hadrian across the empire, a quiet companion, a mirror of innocence and devotion. But in 130 CE, in the waters of the Nile, he drowned. The river took him, and with him, a part of Hadrian. Hadrian wept, not in silence, but in stone. He built Antinoöpolis, a city for the boy. He raised statues in every province, declaring him a god. Love became ritual. Grief became empire. And the emperor's heart was carved into the landscape. Sick and aging, Hadrian chose a successor, not his son, but a wise senator, Antoninus Pius, and with him a quiet boy named Marcus Aurelius, who would one day become a philosopher-king. Hadrian planted a tree whose shade he would never know. Hadrian died in 138 CE. The wall still stands, worn by time, softened by moss, but defiant. It does not speak of conquest, but of contemplation. It is not the limit of power, but the boundary of wisdom. His real legacy lies in the things we cannot see: legal systems, shared cultures, walls that protected without attacking. He did not burn the world to write his name. He preserved it. So, was Hadrian a coward who halted Rome's rise, or a visionary who saw its future? What do you think? Before you go, consider this. The ruins he left behind still speak. You can walk Hadrian's wall in Northumberland. Stand beneath the Pantheon's dome in Rome. Wander through Villa Adriana under a blue Italian sky. Or read Anthony Everett's Hadrian and the Triumph of Rome to know more. Subscribe for more stories of resilience, power, and the beauty of restraint. Leave a comment. What would you have done if you were emperor?